Today is a special treat for you. As you flip through Charleston Women magazine, do you ever give thought to who is the person writing these beautiful stories? Well, today we're going to take you behind the scenes and introduce you to Sarah Rose, freelance writer.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
And now it is my pleasure to welcome Sarah Rose to the Charleston Women Podcast, the voice behind all of the articles that we see in the magazine. Sarah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Erin, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to do this too, because this is kind of a different interview for me, because a lot of time, well, I shouldn't say a lot of times, all the times, I am interviewing all of the amazing, talented women that are featured in the magazine. But this time I feel like we're pulling back the curtain because you're the one who is writing the features, correct? How long have you been doing this?
Correct. For about a year now with Charleston Women. And it's just been my pleasure and an exciting journey to meet so many incredible women in business locally.
Yeah. I mean, what a niche way to, write these articles that it's specifically women, women in business that are featured in the Low Country. Let's just dive right in. What are some of the favorite stories that you've written? I know it's like picking a favorite child, it might be hard, but is there anyone that just kind of sticks out to you?
I would say in the spring 2024 issue, if you have this one, you can pick it up. If not, it's digital, readcw.com. Mm-hmm. There's a story about a woman named Margaret Seidler, who's become a dear friend of mine. And Margaret was on Ancestry.com or 23andMe, one of those one day, and went back to just check and see what was going on in her account. And it showed that she had a message in her inbox from somebody who said she was her cousin. Okay. And so Margaret's like, never met this cousin before, and especially a little curious because Margaret is white and this cousin was African-American. Wow. So she connected with the cousin, and the cousin turns out that she was really into genealogy, and she couldn't figure out her ancestry going back past about 1870. Mm-hmm. She asked Margaret, if you have any spare time, would you help me figure out how our families are connected? Mm-hmm. So Margaret went on to start doing this research and dove right in and discovered that a really dark family secret, that her third, fourth, and fifth generation grandfathers were the largest slave traders in Charleston.
No way. Wow. And
rather than hiding behind her shame and disgust and embarrassment, she wrote a book about her research. Mm-hmm. During this research, she uncovered over 1,000 advertisements with what was then the local paper for selling humans. As she was working on this project, she partnered with John W. Jones, who is an acclaimed artist from Columbia. Mm-hmm. And John looked past the black ink on the white paper into the souls of the people that were being sold. Mm-hmm. And he painted over 60 paintings in less than a year to depict the people that were in those advertisements.
Wow.
And together they collaborated on an exhibit at the City Gallery downtown Charleston. And it's over now, but Margaret's created a movement bridging the gap between the races, and it's growing and growing, and I think it's going to end up on Oprah. And we scooped it, so that was pretty cool.
Scoops with Charleston Women magazine. What a phenomenal tale. I mean, what a shock, I can imagine, when she finds that out. And like you said, a dark smear on the family history, but for her to turn it around and try to make something, good and educational out of it. I love that.
Yeah. And her book is available on Amazon. It's at Buxton Books. It's Barnes & Noble. It's called Painful Business. Okay. Charleston's Journey to Truth. So I have to plug her a little bit.
And does that include, absolutely. So Painful Business, Charleston's Journey to Truth. Does that include the artwork in there, or pictures of the artwork that you can see?
Yes. It's absolutely breathtaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you top that one. When it comes to some of the favorite stuff you've written. Anything else? That's a tough act to follow. Let's be honest.
It really is. Well, I loved that one particularly because it was in our Beautiful Homes issue, and Lorna, our editor, just said, "Bravo, congratulations. That was the missing piece we were looking for," because it goes into how we wouldn't have our beautiful historic homes without the enslaved people who built them. Right. And so as you're walking along the streets of Charleston, look beyond the facade and to really be aware of what happened behind the scenes there. Yeah. So that was just to kind of round that story out. Let's see what else. The recent issue was really cool because I wrote a story about women in clay. because all of our clay pottery studios in Charleston are owned by women. So that was really cool to get to talk to Maria White. I don't know if you've ever interviewed her.
No, but I need to. We'll add it to the list.
Yes. Mugs for Moms. She's very into philanthropy.
Oh, I have. I take it back. I have. I know her. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, I know Maria.
Yes. And Susan Gregory, who owns Studio Union up in the neck of North Charleston. She's amazing. It's kind of this like hip hop graffiti art studio. Would be the perfect place for some events. And she's got other artists and potters in there. And then Vanessa Steele, she owns the Art Place Studio over in Mount Pleasant. And she gifted my daughter Sophie and me a free pottery class.
Oh, fun.
And I'm also an interior designer. So I'm always commissioning other people to build and create things. It's like I can see the vision, but I don't work with my hands. I'm scared that I'm going to totally mess something up. But she's like, work with it. Dive in there, try it. And it was actually really fun and therapeutic and a really cool experience.
That's good. So you recommend that for anyone, but I like the idea of moms and daughters.
Yes. Yeah. It was.
Yeah. What a special treat. I know summer issue coming out. Can you give us, what are you working on that's new and fresh?
The summer issue, that's Women in Clay, and then also female sommeliers.
Oh, I like that.
A very fun story to write. I really needed to dive in and do some research on that. So I went with that.
It involved tasting, right? Like some research. You can't write unless you know what you're talking about.
Exactly. It makes it more fun to write after you've had a
Thank goodness for autocorrect, right?
That's right. So that was a really fun one. Find your interior design style. That was a fun one in the spring issue.
Sarah, I find it interesting that you're a designer, but you're also a writer. So is this something that you've always done or something you're leaning into a little bit more recently?
A little bit of both. My degree is in journalism, and I really wanted to be Christiane Amanpour, traveling the world and covering all the big stories. And as it turns out, sorry, a lot of airplane going over. It was just really difficult to find a career in the journalism field without having to move to a really small town and work for something like $13,000 a year. So I decided to chase my other passion, which was interior design. And that's what I've been doing for decades. And last summer, my husband was faced with a life-threatening illness, and I was the sole caregiver, and I was working at home, and I couldn't take on any more design clients, and I needed something that I could do from home. Plus, we love to travel. He's from England. Our daughter's got dual citizenship, and we just want to get back to traveling a lot. And I can't do that if I'm here working on projects all the time. So this opportunity to write with Charleston Women just kind of dropped into my lap. Sent in a couple of 6 copy sample writings, and here we are.
In 1996, it was Southern Women to Women magazine. Now it's Charleston Women magazine. Charleston Women is all about strong, capable, confident, hardworking, nurturing, determined, dedicated, and inspiring women. Our readers are business owners, entrepreneurs, mothers, sisters, wives, and grandmothers. Pick up your copy of Charleston Women magazine at Charleston area Harris Teeters and Food Lions. Charleston Women magazine. We are Charleston Women.
You're listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
Where do you find your inspiration? These cool stories. Are you the one digging around? Do people send you leads? I'm always fascinated. Like, where does this stuff come from?
A little bit of both. I do get people pitching me for story ideas all the time. But for me, I feel like my writing is much richer if it's something that I'm really passionate about. So a lot of times I'll do my own digging and put together a pitch and send it to Lorna. And there will be several, maybe like 10 or 15 per issue, and we can't run them all. So she'll pick kind of the top ones that are a fit for that particular theme and there. But I had a mentor once say, attend everything, curious, be curious like a child, interested is interesting. So I'm interested in everything: history, lifestyle, women in business, what's going on, what's led us to this point. And Oh, that was the story I was just thinking of. Sorry. It was the American College of Building Arts.
Oh, that's...
That was a really cool story to write. And it was all about the women in plaster. They're very heavily in plaster, more women than men, and the plasterwork program there. And so through those interviews and writing those articles, I got to be really good friends with Angela. She's the professor there. Carolyn, she just graduated. I just went to her capstone event the other day and a presentation lecture she did yesterday. And through that, I also met Christina Butler, who's the dean. And so we've all just kind of gotten to be really good friends. And whenever they've got things going on or coming up that are interesting, it's like, right, how can we shine a light on that? And one thing leads to another, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine, like, you meet the coolest people, right? And then it's always fun when an interview turns into a friendship. Are you one of those people that goes to like all the networking events that you find that, benefits you to connect with people, or no? No, if you're not watching the video podcast, she's making it.
I used to do that with other businesses. And I tried a little bit when I started with the magazine just to kind of get out there, but I just feel like it's serial, kind of like, what can you do for me? And I rather organic get-togethers and makes and presentations and parties and things like that, not so much like a quote unquote labeled.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. Yep. So for someone who's listening or watching right now and has a desire to write, or maybe they've written before, are you guys taking on more freelance writers? So that's kind of my first question. And then my second question is, what would you say to someone who wants to do what you do? If it's not for Charleston Women, but they just want to float their ideas elsewhere, do you have any tidbits of advice?
I do. Those are two questions. So I'm not the person who does the hiring and et cetera, but definitely you can reach out to me on email, and I can certainly forward it to our brand ambassador and our editor who are decisions. We did just take on 2 interns this summer to help with some marketing bios and some other content. Great, yeah. And I'm sure that as we grow, we'll be bringing on freelance writers. We're getting more into the digital space so that we're staying relevant between issues. It's a quarterly publication. So, there's a lot that goes on between publishing dates. And so we want to stay on top of those things. Right. So,
and then for someone who wants to become a writer, who wants to be you when they grow up, Sarah, what would you tell them?
Just keep doing it. Keep writing, keep reading. I'm an obsessive reader. I'm stuck at work, and all my spare time, I'm reading and researching. And just, again, stay interested, what's relevant, what's interesting to you, and just dive into that and meet people and ask a lot more questions and take that interest. I think it's important.
What have you read in the last 3 months that you've loved that the rest of us need to add to our summer reading list?
Well, if you like dorking out on history like I do, there's a biography about Belle Baruch. Okay. She was the owner of Hobcob Barony, past Georgetown. It is one of the most hauntingly romantic, beautiful places I've ever been.
Really? Okay.
And I'm writing a story about it right now for Mount Pleasant magazine. But she ran the plantation herself, and after it was a plantation. And it's just fantastic. It's called the Baroness of Hobcob.
Okay. I'm writing this down. Go on.
Couldn't put it down. And then you're going to want to go up to see the actual space because it's so fascinating. It's absolutely beautiful. Great. I'm reading Confederates in the Attic, which is really interesting. And I've just picked up Eric Larson's new book. Did you see his lecture the other night at the Gilliard with Herb Fraser?
No, but now I am upset that I missed that because I adore Herb.
Yes, same. It was fantastic. And Eric Larson, he writes as though he's historical fiction. You could talk about emotions and what people said and what they were thinking. And he takes that, extracts that from people's journals and letters and diaries and things like that, calendars, and converts it into reality. And it's real history, but it's written as fiction. So it's great. Beautiful. So I can't wait to dive into that.
I now have a list. Thank you for that. On behalf of everyone listening, thank you for that. Maybe we can add them to the show notes too, for those of you at home. Last question, Sarah. I like to ask everyone this. How do you start your morning? I'm a big believer that how we start our day sets us up for success. So are you an early riser, cup of coffee girl, workout girl, sleep in girl? What do you do?
Well, that's a loaded question right now. We have a puppy who is not sleeping through the night.
You're up and at him early.
Yeah, so between like 2:00 wake ups and then getting up for the carpool run at 6:40. I like to come home and see what's going on in the news, catch up on a little bit of research with a cup of coffee, kind of set the intention for the day. And, if there's time, yoga, absolutely. If not, then dive right in.
All right, Sarah, I love it. It has been such a joy talking to you as we got to kind of pull back the curtain and see who writes all the beautiful words in Charleston Women Magazine. Where can people find you? I know you have a website and social media if people want to connect or pitch you story ideas.
Yes, I'm everywhere at sarahroseglobal.com.
Okay, and then Facebook and Instagram, same thing, Sarah Rose Global. Thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And you have been listening to the Charleston Women Podcast with Sarah Rose.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.